Hello, everyone. Good mornings. Greetings from Bali, Indonesia. First of all, I would like to say welcome to you, all the audience that already spread the time for joining us in F&BTech Innovation Southeast Asia Online Conference 2021. The topic for this time sessions is digital transformations in food and beverage world. What is the trend and what is the benefit of it in our industry? My name is Tessa Agustriana. I am a founder of TriFood Consulting, which is an independent consulting service that based in Bali, Indonesia, established in 2018. We assist in research and development, product and process development, food safety and quality management system compliance as well. I personally have been in the industry for the past 13 years and now working towards a sustainably approach within our clients. So I will also join a welcome to our panelists today. There are three gentlemen coming from different background expertise, yet very, very deeply related with technology industry. So the first one, I welcome Philip Stegos. Philip is the managing director of Cadence International. He is a research professional with 15 years experience having worked in Europe and Asia. Currently, he heads up the regional Asian hub for Cadence, equally experienced with quantitative and qualitative research methods. He has worked with some of the biggest brands in the world on some of their toughest and most strategic questions. Philip has spoken at multiple conferences, was instrumental in Cadence winning Agency of the Year in 2020 and 2021, and has co-authored a book on the effective use of workshops in business. The second one is my fellow Indonesians, Kenny Panzeki Augusta, co-CEO of Mystery Punk. Kenny is a business guy who loves technology and passionate in social activities. Kenny and his business partner started Mystery Punk since 2016 when they joined XL Future Leaders Program. The vision is to helping fishermen's families to get extra income by selling sea cucumber via multiple channels that they have. In the future, they want to empower many families, especially the fishermen's partners, the wife, to be productive by cultivating sea cucumber from their husband catch, so they can have a better well-being in their household. The third one today is Mr. Simon Elsby, Sales Director APAC of Exidra. As a senior business leader with over 25 years experience in shopper and category strategy development, omnichannel and customer leadership, revenue and trade spend management, organizational performance and capacity building, he worked and ran major consulting projects with companies such as like Abbott Laboratories, Coca-Cola Amatil, Diageo, Friesland Campinas, Samsung, and many other brands that globally known. So, guys, we already have a little bit of chit chat before. As we know, digital transformations in food and beverage industry may sound great and exciting after hearing about technology innovations and its use cases within our sector. But the question is how to get started. In these sessions, I hope we will learn on how to put an effective digital transformations strategy into place that meets the changing demands of consumers and the marketplace. For starting our discussions, going to be like the very first questions. What are the trends in digital transformations, especially in this post-pandemic era that we have? So the very first person I would like to answer, we can go like from Phillips and then Kenny and then Simon. Go ahead, Philip.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So I guess it's a very broad subject, obviously, and I think there's really sort of three key areas that sort of we've seen where there's been some big changes with digitization and the use of technology. And the first is in kind of the R&D section, utilizing technology to develop your prototyping, to develop your tools in a more effective way. Sometimes it's AI, sometimes it's big data, utilizing kind of the wider trends. And sometimes it's even, we've done some augmented reality work to do pack testing, because you can't physically take packaging around to people anymore, because everyone's in these lockdowns and everyone's struggling with that. So using digitalization in the R&D. Second thing is manufacturing, how you can kind of bring in more automation, how you can bring in a better system of sustainability tracking, and elements like that. And then the third one, which is the bit that I'm probably kind of more fascinated by, which is kind of the consumer experience. And there's a lot of trends going on with how the consumers are interacting with technology. And for me, a lot of that is driven about how companies can show that technology is enhancing experience. And it could be anything from kind of, you have these kind of like automated bartenders and automated restaurants. It could be anything from kind of restaurants that kind of utilize these checkpoints to look after the quality of their food. But first and foremost, I would say that is geared up by consumers who want to understand where their food is coming from, like the provenance of their ingredients. Food safety is coming through quite a lot, and then the experiential factor. If you're stuck at home and you're having kind of food at home and deliveries and things like this, it's very different to then dining out, eating out, shopping out, and things like that. So that experience is something that's really driving a lot of these trends, I would say.
That is very true, Philip. Like, we have so many aspects that already like been touched with that, especially in this pandemic, right? With traceability, but now it's just like the behavior of the customers change, right? From like go shopping or eating in a physical store, physical restaurants, and everything is just like, okay, e-commerce, like within the past 1.5 years, we feel that. And how about from you, Kenny? What is your insight in this?
Yeah, if we were talking about the trends, I always excited to see the data about customer online transaction, the growth of marketplace users, and etc. Because now, every customer has expectation when you buy, and when we need something, we need to fasten the process, and everything need to be fast. Everything needs to be instant. That's why I think in the future, better we if you want to sell something, don't buy, or don't waste your time by, maybe in my opinion, to create another platform. Just use just use existing platform, and you come to the ecosystem. Why? Because there are many people inside the ecosystem, so you can acquire faster and better. After you get some data, now in the next step, maybe you can also build your platform, because the negative side of join the ecosystem is data, right? The retention, etc. That's why I think in the future, maybe many people will join marketplaces to sell the product, and maximize the data to prepare the platform by itself, by themselves. But in Indonesia, there are excited platform called buying group platform, which we joined the platform since last year. It's like a reseller platform. So we register our product to the platform, to the company, and the company will distribute all the products to their reseller and their group buyer system. That's interesting. And I also saw that many companies that using that business model, that funding in the previous 3 months. Maybe this is also the trend in the future, beside the marketplace one. And on the other side, if we are talking about the customer trends, I think many customer will more adventurous in the future, because many options, we got many options, because many brands easy to connect with the customers, easy to use advertisement, so many people will got many exposures regarding a reference. That's why I think the most important part when we talk about customer trends is about specifically data, and personalize the data to get many attentions. That's my point.
Thank you. And then like Simon, for someone that represents such a really big like brands, and to be working with a lot of many different like global well-known brand. So like your insight on this, what is the one that set the trend, and like the whole road through trend making, especially in like digital transformations? Could you please like give me an insight of that? Thank you. Go ahead.
So what do we see as some of the trends affecting food and beverage manufacturers? So I'd like to really break it down to three things. And what we call the industry realities and things that we're really trying to solve for with the clients that we at Exceed are working with. Number one is to address the global food supply crisis. With projected population growth, far exceeding the supply and availability of food products in particular, we think that this is going to mean that the opportunities for technology, but also to think differently about the whole value chain. So whether that be from food yields through farming, all the way through to what's available through the different logistics providers, as well as also through to the fork, if you like. So what's available on a consumer's table. So the second thing is that we see is around regulation and linking back to that consumer demand. So that's really all about food traceability requirements across that value chain, meaning that all the players in the industry are really going to be needing to be thinking about data in a different way, information in a different way, and about where does that sourcing of raw materials, ingredients, and inputs into finished products. And the last thing I just wanted to briefly touch on in talking about trends is really the role of industry to really start to develop smarts. So smartness around the implementation and supporting of the industry. The industry is very fragmented. I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we talk a lot about in our business is about this whole kind of farm to fork and having information, data points, support mechanisms that really help technology to enable our service industry and provide, finished product to consumers that benefit all the way through the value chain.
Customer point of view. In here, like what else, like the benefit that you can see, like especially for how I can say it, like more into like a smaller medium enterprise that start in like food and beverage industry. I know to join with the marketplace is something that everyone can do as well, but actually not everyone understand how to really like optimize that platform. So perhaps you can give like an insight for that, and like what is the best way for them to use it.
Basically the negativity of join the ecosystem is many players there, which Mr. Wipang also faced the effect. But we believe if we can collect all the data from the customer in the marketplace, let's say, I typically using marketplace advertisement. Why? Because if we are using the advertisement, our chance to get a new customer or acquire new users will be more higher. After that, we will use that data, use the early data to maximize our revenue. Let's say we will maximize the retention. Let's say we over them the subscription, and etc. How about to scale? We also request them to do posting social media or give us some feedbacks to let them know that we are really care about the customer. That's the daily operations that we collaborate with marketplace. If you wanna curious also regarding the reselling platform, we also do the same thing, but we also close enough with the reseller and the company itself. So we believe at the end we do a human business. We need to be care. We need to show our empathy, and that's how our working with the team, with the partners, and our customers.
I think there's also a lot that that small companies can do with kind of sort of free and open technology. So the use of WhatsApp groups, use of connecting with regular customers through sort of a chat function like that allows you to update people about the deals that you have on, so about the latest stock. And you know, in Indonesia, some of our guys have signed up to various like wet market WhatsApp groups and updates, so they know what's in stock and where before they get there. So people can start planning a little bit more and just being mindful, I think, of, you know, the pandemic is changing how people behave and how people shop and how people interact with things. And the use of those types of social technologies and social groups is having a massive impact in the engagement that everyone can have with their customer base.
Yeah, very good point, Philip, because the negativity of the marketplace is after sales, right? We couldn't follow up. That's why we maximize the data to follow up via WhatsApp.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And all of it is, you know, it's all about building the loyalty of the brands, right? You know, so big multinational companies have been doing this for years and spend millions of dollars on understanding those consumers. But there is so much more free technology now for the small and micro businesses that can do elements of this now themselves. Customization to some degree is a real big trend. Mass customization is a great terminology, so that then you can reach out to your customer base, but you still have their names, you still know their preferences, and you can still tailor some of that communications as you go.
Great. I also want to discuss with the benefit of digital transformations, like where Philip's before, just like mentioned in the previous answers, right? Like definitely can help in a compliance process, you know, like as the organic and natural industries is real big. Fair trade certification is also like very, very big, right? And other like vegan or non-GMO certifications, a lot of the things. Well, when we do assessment, usually like probably the previously like for the last decade, it's still like put it like as manual, you know, we still need to have like internal system controller in the field. And then of course the data more or less you cannot always feel it's accurate, but with adapting a digital transformations in the whole systems, like a blockchain, let's say, when you do like compliance, so like a real-time report and everything, it's like be very, very helpful, right? Philip's like, please help me with this, the questions.
Yeah, and again, I think, you know, you're trying to divide this between sort of the big global multinationals and what they're doing, and also then what kind of smaller companies can do as well. So the big global companies are there looking at their entire supply chain and the quality control process off the back of it. What I think you'll see a lot of is certain countries doing very well off the back of the pandemic. A brand like New Zealand, if you take a country as a brand, has done very well. It's controlled its own COVID issues very well. It's kept cases down low. It's also just got beautiful scenery that inherently makes you believe of outdoors and fresh air and kind of quality produce. And that's what people are looking for. So being able to show how you can take ingredients from there and you can track where it is and the temperature that it's at and the quality control all the way through to your manufacturing, all the way through to your point of sale, is that reassurance of quality that the big brands can provide their customers. Middle layer, I think then sort of local players being able to talk about the fact that like our produce comes from our location, you know, having smaller food miles, more locally grown, more fresh or seasonal ingredients is something, again, you're not worrying about where's my food been, because you can see it, it's right there. And then right at the micro level, I think it's all about just being able to be a bit more aware about your stock management systems, only buying in the right ingredients when you need it, and using that technology to help predict potential sales or spikes if the weather is good or bad, and making sure that you're not overstocking and therefore running the risk of the expiry minimizes that waste as well. So all these different sizes of companies are all utilizing technology in a different way, but ultimately to build confidence with those end users.
Okay, for a company that working with a lot of like global brand that came to you and asking, of course, like to help them doing the research, in the digital transformations like Xedra and also Cadence, right? How you basically first advising them, and how the process of research and creations, and through the whole, like since the very ideations to the commercializations of it within like your clients like Simon's. Perhaps you can help to answer these questions, and then we can go to Philip as well.
So I wanted to talk a little bit now about how technology is really helping to guide some of those, overarching trends and realities, that I specifically talked about earlier. So we see a lot of the challenges and the issues as really being about a data problem that really has to start with the digitization of farming practices that then can be then shared across the food value chain at the discretion of the producer, but increasingly not just the producer, but also the consumer, the shopper, even the retailer, with increasing demands on traceability and sustainability. I mentioned earlier that the industry is really struggling with implementation and support of what is quite a fragmented industry. Farmers are really struggling with the amount of technology that's available. And we do have a very fragmented approach, which is why we see 40% of farmers using a farm management system using multiple software solutions. So with that type of siloed approach, I think it's fair to say that doesn't address the needs of the full value chain. And so where we see digital technologies playing a greater role is really about that enhancement of the linkages across your data points, systemization of those different aspects of that farm to fork value chain that I mentioned before, and trying to normalize the approach to data management across the value chain. What we really see is really getting and helping our clients to be able to tackle the agriculture and food industries really complex data management challenge, linking systems, connecting, digitizing the food ecosystem, as I mentioned before, and what we call farm to fork, providing more extensive network infrastructures, digitization, enabling agribusinesses, farmers and ranchers, and food and consumer packaged goods companies to really come together through artificial intelligence, technology innovation, and actually human and compassion. Let's not leave the human side out of this. And then, of course, the last thing really is around exchange. So ensuring that there is a seamless flow of digitized information that helps all parties to be able to operate more effectively. So there's some of the things that we see as really enabling food and beverage companies to think about technology in a way that really enhances the full value chain from farm to fork. Thanks.
Go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, so from our side, from the consumer market research approach, which is what kind of Cadence does, it's our bread and butter. It's about identifying what are the trigger points, what are customers, consumers looking for, what are the claims, what are the messaging, what's the hook that a brand can sort of can attach itself to kind of increase its consideration set. What a lot of companies are also trying to do is to predict how much change there is as a result of the pandemic. We're in a way approaching kind of year zero. Right? A lot of countries are now coming through what may be perceived as the worst part of the pandemic. So what now? Are we constantly going to be wearing masks? Are we constantly going to be limiting the social interactions? Or are the assurances that we're looking for from companies going to change? And I think that's a lot of where our research has focused. It's trying to predict not only what's happening now, but what's going to happen in 6 months, 12 months, 2 years down the line, so that companies can start preparing for that now and have the right products in place as behaviors start to shift.
Okay, and like for Kenny itself, like in Indonesia, have you seen like the digital transformations in F&B industry is already there, is happening, and how do you see it within the next like 5 years? Do you think we're really able, like, because I know a couple of like startups already start to working with like lots of farmers, how I can incorporating them within their systems, right? Like for the collecting point and then the payment systems as well, and then like inventories. So are you optimistic that like Indonesia will be like one of the main player as well in incorporating the digital transformations within like our industries? Yeah.
Yeah, the answer is of course, because our market growing rapidly every year, every month, every year, every day. So yeah, the answer is yes. But I think if we say about 5 years in the future, like 5 years, maybe we need to remind again about the O2O model. Now, many startups, many digital players acquire offline supermarket, which is really excited. This is also the model that I think in Mystery Pang we learn how to collaborate with the offline store. Because in the future, O2O will create a better or a great or a perfect ecosystem. Because many people, we couldn't reject that. In Indonesia, there are population that is not using smartphone. Yeah, the number of smartphones grow rapidly, but we couldn't forget the number of people that not using smartphone. That's why I think in the next 5 years, we also need to consider the O2O model. And how about the comment of the digital transformation regarding payment gateway and etc. Yeah, that's why in the future, like I said before, if you have a good data, a good customer retention, we need to create a application or website or ecosystem. Because what? Because we can collect all the data, we can collect all the margins, we can collect all the transactions, which need the payment gateway, which need the collaboration between farmers, fishermen, wife of fishermen, and etc. In a good in a one ecosystem, in a one model. So yeah, I think that's the future. We need to prepare. And now we are focusing to create a step how to catch up in the future. Like next month, we will collaborate with 3 offline stores in Semarang to sell our Mistari Pang in that store. And hopefully the result is good, so we can start to collaborate O2O model.
I think off that point, it's interesting looking at different parts of the world to predict how those trends are going. So you've got China with WeChat, where pretty much everything is just done through this one central model, and because it's also part of your social environment, you're just on there quite regularly. Bit closer to kind of where we are in Southeast Asia, Grab is trying to kind of take on that kind of like sort of mega app status and is using its wallets, and you can now do various payments and aspects like that. But again, in the sort of the grocery, in terms of the regular payments, then you kind of have a little bit more of that centralized system. But then we also have to be mindful of, if you look back to kind of the Europe, the GDPR rules with regards to data protection could then start playing a slightly different role in terms of at some point in Asia, you've got all of this data of people's things, but who then has oversight of that across these markets? And how do you as a business owner look after or protect against any of those compliance issues that will probably at some point come in and put big fines and big regulatory issues on for even just a micro business?
For Philip, like because you're not working only with the passport company that based in Singapore International, I believe they're also looking for their potential market around like Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, right? So of course, like as you said, like every area, every region has a different level on how they can catch up within this, right? And for mostly developing countries, how long do you think that we will be able to catching up with the whole new transformations in this technology?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a big question. It's a big question to ask. I think, you know, there's a lot of talk about kind of Asia, and I would say particularly Southeast Asia, being at the forefront now of the future investment. A lot of Chinese companies are moving themselves into Singapore to set up kind of a base of operations here, particularly tech side of things. Food, consumer goods, like the innovations of the world, a lot of that is being driven here. This is where there is multi-billion-dollar growth opportunities for a lot of industries and for a lot of companies. So there's certainly a desire from companies, and there's certainly is an audience and an approach, I guess, that people are looking for. I would say it's going to be different. Like what works in the US is that everybody is basically in the same market. In Europe, there's some language differences, but culturally, everybody's coming from the same sort of place. China, billion-plus people are fundamentally share the same sort of core values in terms of their heritage and the cultural side of things. Southeast Asia is not that. There is a huge melting pot of different cultures and traditions, religions, and kind of political points of view. And so what has worked in other big regions is not going to work here. You have to have the ability to customize to your audience. And I think that will be something that is really accelerated here and will probably pass out to other regions in a decade's time. The technology, the tools and the innovations that come here are probably going to go back elsewhere in the world. Because if you can succeed here, then I think you can succeed in other regions around the world.
Yeah, so you say that like working in Southeast Asia, let's say, it might have a little bit more sophistications based on each region, based on the customer behavior as well, based on the infrastructure as well. We're talking in decades, it sounds quite long, but doesn't really like that actually, you know, like it's been going on so fast as well. And another interesting things that I would like to ask is, because we've been talking quite a lot about more into the supply chain and the commercialization space, in the creations of the product, I read that there are a couple of companies that using AI, especially to also help them creating a new product, a plant-based alternative or meat analog product, right? Like there are companies like this, if I'm not mistaken, is a UK-based company, and also like one company that calls like a Nutco, and one other company as well that actually using AI to describing the wine tasting, so the selections of wine flavor. So that would be great if you like have like a lot more like insight on this aspect.
Well, I don't know a huge amount. AI is definitely not my area of specialism, but someone like Notco is utilizing AI to identify how to change ingredients, how to utilize kind of non-dairy products, for example, to produce kind of like a dairy alternative for milk, which again is good for two things. One, it's a cultural trend. It's a buzz term, like, you know, soya milk and almond milk and aspects like that are popular in parts of the world. Australia does very well, which is great. It's also far easier to store and to distribute that type of product than it is to have kind of fresh milk, organic milk, which has a shorter shelf life. So there is a definite benefit for that. There's also the environmental impact of you just need less cows, and less cows is probably good for the environment because you need less land and therefore less deforestation and everything else like that. There's some big macro trends that are happening, and companies like Notco are utilizing AI to predict and test their prototyping far faster. So when you mentioned before, like a decade is a long time and it's not a long time, the speed of innovation that people can do now is so much faster. You don't need long R&D processes. You don't need long feedback loops to work out what's going on. And the companies that will succeed will be the ones that take the risks and are happy with failure to some degree before they come across their billion-dollar idea.
Yeah, and Simon, that would be great to also like hear from your side, because like you've been working with a lot of this like big F&B brand, including Diageo and Coca-Cola, Amatil, and Friesland Company, on how to use this. So could you please like enlighten us with this comments in these questions? Okay, so guys, I think we already discussed like a couple of questions, a big general topics when we're talking about digital transformations. It's really, really interesting. And with more and more experience that need to be creative with using an online platform instead of like an online platform. So I think every brand, every company has really have a better strategy on how to make sure that their product, your brand, so it can be representative in a very proper way, even though the consumer, the customer cannot have that physical, no longer have a physical experience, or at least a limited physical experience. And with the current lifestyle that everyone just like wants to have it like now, right now, in terms of payment, in terms of getting their food into their plate, right? In terms of getting like the things that they want to have, like just like an online shopping experience that taking like, I want to order now, I want to have the product now. So I believe digital transformation is really needed. And the most important things with the latest trends in the industry, which is like more focusing into traceability, a lot of like new system that basically develop in the digital sectors will be helping and supporting this development as well in F&B industry. With that, so I think we hope that we can give like a little bit insight in this aspect. Thank you so much for joining with me and the whole team of F&BTech Innovations. I really hope next time we'll have like a lot more time to discuss, or even like the chance to have like a physical experience in a conference like soon, I believe. Thank you and good morning for all.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.